So we're going to start with an introduction to HTML, which is the language of the World Wide Web. So all web pages that you see online are fundamentally made up of HTML, and a HTML document is required for publishing websites and web pages to the web. So really it is the perfect place for us to start. So HTML actually stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and I just want to focus on the word markup, which I think really quite clearly explains the role of HTML in creating web pages. So it's actually derived from a traditional publishing practice where publishers would write handwritten annotations to mark up a manuscript and indicate next to pieces of text what typeface, style and size should be applied to each part of a particular document. And that is really what we are doing in HTML. We are applying tags to pieces of information, to elements, to just give the browser information on how to render them on the web page. So let's start with a Hello World example. So you can see here, if you type Hello World into a HTML document, it is going to render on the page, but we actually haven't given any information about how to render this this bit of text. So we might want to add certain bits of information to change the style that this string is appearing. So we can do that by applying tags to elements. So in this example, we have applied a H1 tag, which is our largest heading, so heading 1 tag, and we have the element inside an opening and closing tag. And that is telling the documents that this Hello World is a heading 1 element, and it will style that element appropriately. So heading 1 is the largest of the headings in HTML, but we can have heading 2, 3 down to heading 6. And as you can see, that is rendering the headings in a smaller and smaller size as we increment down to H6. We can also add additional pieces of information to our elements actually inside our starting tag. So we can add attributes to give different bits of information to the document and how to render that string. So this example, we've added a style, so a color blue style, which then changes the color of that Hello World string in the browser. You will see a lot more examples as we go through this course. The most common two, I'd say, is adding a class and ID to certain HTML elements, and the reason we add classes and IDs is so that we can target different elements with CSS, but more on that later in this course. So I've just brought up here a boilerplate of a HTML document, which is quite useful for you to see at this stage. So we are going to start typing this out and getting some good practice in building these documents. But just so you're aware of the fundamental layout, you can see at the start we've got our doctype HTML tag, which is telling the browser that this is a HTML5 document. We've then got our opening and closing HTML tags at the very top and bottom, and enclosed in that we've got two main sections. We've got our head section and then body section. So in the head, think of it as all the metadata or information around what is being rendered on the page. We've got a title, and you can add some other metadata which we will be seeing a little bit later on in the course. In the body section of the document, this is where all the text that is actually going to be rendered on the screen goes. So in this example, we've got a heading, H1 elements, This is a heading and then a paragraph element in p tags. So what we've seen so far really is only scratching the surface of the number of different tags in HTML, and also as you move on to other concepts into CSS and JavaScript, there is going to be an awful lot to learn. But do not get disheartened by it. It might seem like there is going to be an awful lot to get your head around, but really I just wanted to highlight at this stage the importance of documentation, and that's what we're going to be looking into in the next lecture. I'm just going to point you to some really good starter resources that we're going to be using all the way throughout the course as a reference, some good information and documentation on not just HTML but also CSS and JavaScript.